The first time Teresa Odom saw her sister Vanessa in 11 years was on a Tuesday morning in March 2023, on the other side of a Family Feud podium, wearing the same pearl earrings that had belonged to their mother. Teresa had worn those earrings on the day of her engagement. She had been wearing them the night she introduced her fiancé, David Reeves, to her family. To her sister Vanessa, who was 23 to Teresa's 26, and who had sat across that dinner table with her hands folded and her eyes very still, and said that David seemed wonderful. 2 weeks later, David stopped calling. 3 weeks after that, Vanessa stopped returning Teresa's calls. 4 months after that, Teresa received a wedding announcement in the mail, a cream envelope, gold lettering, the names David Reeves and Vanessa Odom, printed in script above a ceremony date Teresa had already planned as her own. She did not attend. She did not call. She changed her number and moved to Charlotte, and spent the better part of a decade building a life from the rubble of a story she had never told anyone completely. She had applied to Family Feud with her co-workers, 3 women she had known for 6 years. Women who knew her as dependable, warm, quietly private. They did not know about Vanessa. They did not know about David. They did not know about the pearl earrings. Teresa had not told them because there are some things that take up so much space inside a person that there is simply no room left to say them out loud. Nobody in that studio knew they were about to witness an 11-year story end. Teresa grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, the older of 2 daughters. Their mother, Addie, had been the kind of woman who made every room warmer just by being in it. A woman who wore her pearl earrings to Sunday church every week for 30 years and left them to Teresa in a small velvet box with a note that said, "For my firstborn. Wear them when you are happiest." Their father had left when Teresa was 9 and Vanessa was 6. And Addie had raised both daughters alone on a school cafeteria salary and an unshakable belief that the 2 of them were going to be each other's best thing. She said it often. She made them say it back. Addie died of ovarian cancer when Teresa was 24 and Vanessa was 21. Teresa wore the pearl earrings to the funeral. She was wearing them again 2 years later, the night she brought David home. David Reeves was 30 years old, a structural engineer from Greensboro, steady and careful, and the first man Teresa had loved without reservation. He had proposed on a Tuesday evening in November, at the kitchen table with no grand gesture, just a ring, and the plainest sentence Teresa had ever heard. "I want to spend every Tuesday with you for the rest of my life." She had said yes before he finished. She called Vanessa from the parking lot of the restaurant where they went to celebrate, laughing so hard she could barely speak. Vanessa had said, "I'm so happy for you, T. I mean it." She had meant something. Teresa did not understand the full shape of what had happened until the wedding announcement arrived. She did not understand it even then, not completely. Not in the way that allows a person to hold it and examine it and name each part of it. She understood that her fiancé and her sister had decided, together, that what Teresa had was something they wanted. She understood that neither of them had told her. She understood that the family David had met through her, the only family Teresa had left since Addie died, had chosen someone else. She was 26 years old. Her mother was dead, her sister was gone, her fiancé was gone, and she was alone in a way that had no clean word for it. She moved to Charlotte. She built her life. She was, by the time she sat down in that Family Feud contestant chair, a woman who had genuinely rebuilt. Good job, good friends. A life that belonged entirely to her. She had done it without bitterness, or at least without the visible kind, which is the only kind that other people can see. She had done it quietly and completely, and she had almost never looked back. And then the Family Feud producers called to confirm her taping date and mentioned, as a note of interest, that there was another team that had also been confirmed for the same episode. A family team from Raleigh. Last name Reeves. Teresa had sat very still when she heard that name. She had not withdrawn from the taping. She told herself she was not certain. She told herself Reeves was not an uncommon name. She told herself she could handle whatever walked through that door. What walked through that door was Vanessa, wearing their mother's pearl earrings. And then Steve Harvey called what happened next the single most complicated moment of grace he had ever witnessed on that stage. Steve was running the opening round, warm and fast, introducing both families with his usual ease. He got to Teresa first. Charlotte, project manager, 11 years with her company, came with her work team. He asked about family. Teresa said she was an only child. She said it that way, without flinching. Steve moved to the Reeves family. He got to Vanessa. He asked how long she and David had been married. Vanessa said 10 years. Steve said, "Any family in the audience rooting for you today?" Vanessa smiled and said her sister Teresa was supposed to come but couldn't make it. Steve turned back to Teresa. Something in the way he looked at her, the pause, the tilt of his head, said he had already begun to add things up. Teresa met his eyes. She said nothing. She was the calmest person in the room. Steve Harvey put his cards down on the podium, very slowly. "Hold on," he said. He looked at Teresa. He looked at Vanessa. He looked at the pearl earrings. "I need somebody to help me understand what is happening on this stage right now," he said quietly. The studio fell completely silent. Teresa spoke first. Her voice was level. She said, "That's my sister, Vanessa. She's wearing our mother's pearl earrings. I gave them to her at our mother's funeral because I thought she should have something to remember her by." She stopped. "I didn't know she was going to be here today. I haven't spoken to her in 11 years. 300 people did not breathe. Vanessa had gone completely still at her podium. David, standing beside her, had stepped back one full step. Steve Harvey pressed his handkerchief to his eyes. He turned away from the cameras. He stood with his back to the audience for a full 8 seconds. The crew near the production desk had stopped entirely. A camera operator looked at the floor. When Steve turned back, he was not performing. He was present in a different way. The way that happens when something real arrives in a room designed for entertainment and the room doesn't know what to do except go quiet and let it. "Let me tell you something," Steve said. He walked forward from the podium, slowly. "I know what it is to lose your family. I know what it is to be the one who was left. I've been in circumstances I'm not going to describe in detail. But I know what it is to sit in something empty and wonder if anyone who was supposed to love you actually did." He stopped. He looked at Teresa. "What you just did, standing there saying your piece, with that kind of dignity, I have never seen anything like it in 30 years of television. Stop everything," he said. He did not say it loudly. He said it with the absolute quiet of a person who has made a decision. Cut the game. We're not finishing the round. This has never happened in the 45-year history of this show, and I don't care at all. He walked to the center of the stage, between both podiums, and he asked both women to come forward. They stood 8 feet apart, for the first time in 11 years. Steve did not orchestrate it. He did not direct it. He held the microphone and said, "I'm not going to tell either of you what to do or feel. But I am going to stand right here while this room gives you the space to say whatever needs saying. What was said between Teresa and Vanessa in the next 6 minutes has never been fully reported. The cameras rolled. The audio exists. The production team has honored an agreement with both women to keep the specific words private. What people saw, what 300 people in that studio witnessed, and what the edited version of the episode showed, was two women standing in the space between their podiums, close enough to touch, and the specific quality of silence that surrounds people who are finally saying the things they have been not saying for a decade. What everyone saw clearly was the moment Vanessa reached up and unclasped the pearl earrings. She held them out to Teresa. Teresa looked at them for a long time. Then she took them. The studio came to its feet. Nobody had signaled them. Nobody said applause. 300 people simply stood up. Steve Harvey pulled out his phone. He called a family mediation specialist his foundation had worked with, live on speaker, the whole room hearing. He arranged fully funded sessions for both women, together and separately. For as long as they needed, he covered all costs through his foundation. He then turned to both families and said that both teams would be receiving the full prize because what had happened on that stage was not a competition. It was something else entirely. But Steve wasn't done. He looked at Teresa and said, into the microphone, to the camera, to everyone watching. 11 years is a long time to carry something alone. You walked in here today as an only child. Whatever happens next, you are not alone in this room. He paused. And those earrings belong on you. Teresa put them on. When the episode aired 9 weeks later, the 6-minute unedited segment between Teresa and Vanessa, which the production team released in full with both women's permission, became the most watched Family Feud content in the show's 50-year history. Within 4 days, it had been seen 410 million times across platforms. The hashtag #SuckTheEarrings trended in 22 countries. Morning programs replayed it. Therapists, pastors, and family counselors cited it in practice. The clip was referenced in academic discussions about estrangement and reconciliation. 3 months after the taping, Teresa and Vanessa began joint mediation sessions. Teresa has said publicly only this: I went in not knowing if I wanted my sister back. I came out knowing that I needed to at least have the conversation. That's where we started. 6 months after the taping, David Reeves was not part of the ongoing reconciliation conversations. That is all either woman has said about that. A year after the taping, Teresa and Vanessa had dinner together for the first time. Their mother's pearl earrings were on the table between them in the small velvet box. Neither wore them that night. Both of them touched the box. The Addie Odom Foundation, named for their mother, was established with support from Steve Harvey's foundation the following year, specifically to fund grief and family separation counseling for adult siblings navigating estrangement following parental loss. In its first year, the foundation served more than 700 families across 18 states. Its motto came from Addie's own words, which both Teresa and Vanessa remembered perfectly. The two of you are each other's best thing. Today, Teresa Odom wears the pearl earrings to Sunday church. She has worn them every Sunday for 2 years. She wears them the way her mother wore them, not as a statement, but as a quiet, continued thing. A habit of remembering that becomes, over time, a habit of living. She and Vanessa speak every week, not every day, but every week. They are learning, at 37 and 34, what sisters learn when they finally choose to. Steve Harvey said in an interview 6 months later, I have hosted this show for a long time. I have seen things on this stage that I will carry with me forever. But Teresa Odom walked into a room where her greatest wound was sitting at the other podium, and she stood there with more dignity than I have ever seen any person demonstrate in front of a camera. She didn't need me to do anything. She just needed the room to go quiet. I gave her that. The rest was hers. The pearl earrings catch the light in the same way they always have. Addie would have known what they meant. She would have said, "Wear them when you are happiest." Teresa is learning, slowly and without a timetable, what happiness looks like on the other side of 11 years. It looks, she says, a little like her mother, and a little like her sister's face across a dinner table, and a lot like standing in a room full of strangers with your mother's pearls in your hand and knowing, finally, after everything, that you are not going to put them back. If this incredible story of family, loss, and two sisters finding their way back touched your heart, subscribe to this channel and hit the like button. Share this with someone who believes that it is never too late to find your family or your way home. Have you ever been estranged from someone you love and found a way back? Share your story in the comments. Because as Teresa and Vanessa proved, love does not have an expiration date, and some things are worth reclaiming.